Welcome to Worth the War. My name is Kimmy. The purpose of Worth the War is to prepare you to love well and to avoid abuse. If you think we can do a better job with love and relationship than we're doing in our culture now, then you have found the right place. Today our topic is how to survive narcissistic groups and cultures. Let's dig right into it. There are people who disagree on whether we're actually creating more NPD or diagnosable narcissists, but hardly anybody disagrees that our culture is becoming more narcissistic. If we think about the mentality of 100 years ago, we are absolutely more self-promoting. We have 100 ways to send out different pictures and selfies of ourselves, different filters to different places. Just take a moment to think about it. Think about sayings that we hear all the time and we don't think anything of them. People who say things like, I'm going to get to the top and I don't care who I have to hurt to get there, or he who dies with the most toys wins. These are narcissistic ideals. These are rewarding narcissistic ideas. What matters is external and its ability to be successful and its material gain, or it doesn't really matter if you hurt people as long as you get what you want. The question isn't whether or not we're becoming more narcissistic. The question is, what are we going to do about it? If one of the goals of Worth the War is to be able to help prepare you for love and relationship, and the other part is to be able to avoid abuse, it's paramount to be able to identify narcissism, which both prevents you from being able to love well and creates abuse. Let's look at how we can identify in groups and cultures narcissism so we can pull out a toolbox that will help us not just survive in these environments, but to thrive. To be able to defeat any enemy, we have to understand exactly what we're dealing with. When we enter into a group that is narcissistic in nature, or a culture that's narcissistic, we have to understand what drives it. What's going to drive it is the individual's ability to achieve what they need to. We need to be able to understand that is going to minimize any kind of cohesive teamwork or communication between the people in the group. We need to lay down any expectations of building any kind of honest and healthy relationships and go into it expecting to be both used and criticized for other people's mistakes. If we understand that, then we will be able to take from the experience the kinds of things that we need, whether it's something for our resume or it's an education or if it's a job experience. And we can do so without being terribly wounded if we don't go in expecting for the rules to be what they should be in a group, which should be everybody lifting each other up. In fact, we should expect that if you are in a service or a support role, that essentially you will do the majority of the work and get none of the credit. So as you're becoming more and more aware that you're in this narcissistic group or culture, you have to do two things pretty quickly. The first one is you have to raise up an armor on your emotions, your heart, your feelings. You have to be prepared for the fact that this is not going to be a place that you're going to get warm and fuzzy praise and encouragement. Once you raise that up, you're going to be more able to navigate the fact that often in narcissistic groups and communities, there's actually an unearned sense of criticism that you're given, or you might be blamed for things that you didn't do or things that aren't even a part of the reality that you experienced. Narcissists are pretty good at creating a reality. So when we think about these things, we have to realize if we're prepared for them, they can do very little damage to us. Other part of this is that we need to learn from the narcissistic culture as well as we can learn from a narcissist. There are things that narcissists do that we actually can't emulate that don't hurt anybody and that are good. One of the things that narcissists and narcissistic cultures are good at casting vision and bringing people along. We can actually pick up on that and take that in and learn from it. There are good things that we will find in this environment, and there are things we need to be prepared for that are not good. But if we walk into it knowing, it's not going to do too much damage. Another really important part of a narcissistic group or culture is that often there's an underground community. They've been called flying monkeys or minions. You can call them all different kinds of things. But they essentially do the bidding and the underground gathering of information for a narcissistic type leader. And if you have that dynamic, it's very important that you don't share any of your inside thoughts or concerns with any of these people. And they often don't even know that that's the job that they fulfill. They're usually not quite as on top of things as other people. And they're basically just used as someone for this person to lean on to get more validation for what they do. Remember that in a narcissistic group, generally people believe there's only so much shine to go around. And if you're doing a good job and you're deserving any kind of praise or credit for what you do, they feel like that comes out of their bank. Remember, be very careful with who you share. I would strongly suggest you stay out of gossip circles and you remember to just do your job, keep your head down, and remember, this is not a forever thing. Okay, so we've been able to talk about how we identify a narcissistic group or culture or organization a little bit from the outside, but honestly, mostly from the inside. It takes some internal workings to kind of get an idea of the twisted dynamic of this. Once we do that, we've learned how to put up a guard and how to change our expectations of how we're going to be treated in this environment and how to succeed in it. We also have learned that we can learn things from a narcissistic culture and environment. There are some things that can be taken that are good. The last piece of this, and it's really important, is the self self-care aspect. One of the things that having a relationship with a narcissist or being in a group of narcissistic culture have in common is that they can mess with your head and the way you see yourself. Very important you have a touchstone outside of that organization, someone you can actually tell what you're enduring, how you're feeling about it, what you're thinking about it, so that you will allow them to shed light into that and help keep you on even keel. It's also very important to revisit your goals on a regular basis. You can get sucked into this vortex of negativity and of competitiveness, and you really don't want that to happen. Have that person that's on the outside helping you kind of really speak into how do they see your mental health faring. Along the same lines, it's not a bad time to pick up a hobby that you can't wait to get out and go do, or to think of some mental health practices that will help you stay grounded, like meditation and prayer. The one thing you don't want to do is underestimate the struggle and challenge that can come from being in an environment with either a narcissist or a narcissistic group or culture. It is exhausting, it will deplete you, and the more that you do to prevent that and the more expectation adjustment that you have going into that, the more likely you are to come out really well. I really hope some of this content has been useful for you. I know there's a ton of channels you could be listening to, so it means a lot that you're here. Please press the subscribe button, join our community as we raise our collective voices to make an impact on the culture that we live in. We're in the midst of a series on a practical approach to narcissism. Our next installment is going to be how to survive and thrive in a work environment that's narcissistic with a narcissistic boss. I can't wait to share it with you. I really look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks again for being here.